Hi, young readers, and welcome back, returning young readers. I'm your little darling narrator, and in this episode, we're going to go down the road of the Action Storybook Bible series. And before we get started, I need to do a little housekeeping. So, what that means is if you have not subscribed to this channel, I'm inviting you to do that right now. I'm opening the doors. And while you're there, go ahead and click that bell. That way, every time we post a new story, you'll get a notification letting you know. And if you like a story, do me a favor, smash that like button. Let the world know you like the story. Okay? Now, if you're ready, sit back, relax, and we'll get started. The name of this story is called The Great Rescue, and this is based off of Exodus chapters 2 through 20. Many years after Joseph, God's people became slaves to the Pharaoh in Egypt. But still, God's people increased in number. In fact, Pharaoh thought there were too many of them. So he ordered that every baby boy born to a slave be killed. Moses' mother knew her baby was in danger, but she had a plan. She made a floating basket for Moses, and she told his sister Miriam to tuck him inside and set the basket in the reeds along the river to hide him. Then Miriam watched over him. Miriam spotted some women near the water, and one of them was a princess. "Oh, what do we have here?" the princess wondered. She asked a servant to get the basket, and there was baby Moses, cooing and smiling at her. The princess decided to adopt baby Moses, and so he grew up as a prince in the Pharaoh's palace. As Moses got older, he couldn't stand the way God's people were being treated. They were still slaves under the rule of Pharaoh. Moses got angry one day and killed one of the slave masters. He knew he had to escape from Egypt right away. Moses rushed away to the countryside. He got married and became a shepherd. One day, he saw a bush on fire, but it wasn't burning up. God spoke from this bush. He told Moses to rescue God's people, who were still slaves in Egypt. Moses didn't want to go back, but God insisted. "Who shall I say sent me?" Moses asked. "I am who I am," God said. When Moses went back to Egypt to see Pharaoh, Moses' brother Aaron joined him. They told Pharaoh to let God's people go, but Pharaoh said no. Even after bad things called plagues started to happen, Pharaoh still said no, over and over again, until God sent the last plague that took the life of the Pharaoh's own son. "Go! Get out of here! Take the slaves with you!" Pharaoh screamed, filled with grief and rage. So Moses and God's people left Egypt. But it didn't take long before Pharaoh changed his mind. "After them! After them!" he ordered his army. God's people were trapped next to the Red Sea with no way out. But God made a way where there was no way out. He told Moses to raise his staff. Then God parted the waters of the Red Sea, and the people walked through on dry ground to the other side. Pharaoh and his army tried to follow them, but it was no use. The water crashed down on the Egyptians. God had rescued his people. They thanked God for saving them. Moses' sister Miriam and other women began to praise God and play tambourines to celebrate. God took his people through the desert to a new home called the Promised Land. Every day, God gave them food and water in the desert, and God's people learned to trust him. It took a long, long time, not 10 years or 20 years, but 40 years before God's people were ready to enter the Promised Land. God gave them rules to follow. They're called the 10 Commandments. They are God's rules for his people to live in a way that honors him. Moses was getting very old. His time as the leader was coming to an end. Who would lead God's people next? Well, that ends our story. I hope you enjoyed this one. Not only did God save baby Moses, but through Moses, God delivered all his people out of Egypt against all odds, even performing miracles to give them a way out. God always wants what's best for us. So that's something for you to think about. And until next time, my young readers, I am your little darling narrator, out.